welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us again today. We've got Patricia Kara with us again. So happy to have her with us. Author of Dream On, Now Deliver. Backstory of how to have success in the entertainment business. So join us today as we take a look into her amazing success. You started with the Yellow Pages.
Yes.
And just looking for modeling agencies, or
Started looking at modeling agencies. It would take a lot of nerve to just pick up the phone and call them and ask those questions. I was definitely not the kid that was like, maybe when I was really young, I was definitely like, the little character. But there were times where I was just petrified. I was scared. I didn't know what I was doing. So it took me some convincing and talking myself into picking up the phone, asking the questions, and then setting up the meetings. And again, it was a learning process. Not every meeting, not every audition went well. But, it was like you would get a lot of rejection too. So you have to start developing thick skin with a rejection.
what did you learn to say to yourself when you were rejected? Because you'd had all that template of rejection laid down inside of you.
Does
you
it
were
ever
already,
end?
you were already trying to overcome all of that.
I think over time I figured out that it has nothing to do with you. And I do talk about that in the book, because rejection is such a big part of our lives every day, no matter what job, no matter what family situation. There's rejection daily, your relationships, whatever it is. So I felt like I need to reframe it in my mind and not take it personally and just keep going, because I felt like, okay, I'm getting a lot of no's, but eventually there's got to be a yes. So I hung in there as much as I could until the yeses came. And then over time, I would get more yeses, and there were more yeses than no's all of a sudden. But leaving Chicago, even the entertainment business back then, I kept getting, you're too ethnic. You're too this, too that. You're not the girl next door. And I was like, what? I didn't understand. So when I ended up working outside of Chicago, that helped too.
Yeah, you told a story, I think, in the book. I don't remember what you were going for, but there were three girls that were needed, and one was supposed to be Italian, one was supposed to be something else. None of them were supposed to be Greek. And we were all three women who were hired to represent,
which was so funny. And back then, it was great. You could play different nationalities. It's a little different now. Now everybody wants to being authentic to your background.
Do you remember the very first yes? The very first step into, I'm going to be in this world. I'm going to make this work.
I felt more yeses, and where I was more confident by the time I was about 23, 24 when I moved to New York. So from Chicago, I went to Florida. It didn't feel right there, so I left months later, went to New York. And New York, everything clicked.
Yeah.
And I had this dream when I watched Fame as a kid.
Yeah.
I would see everybody dancing around top of cars, and they went to this high school, and I thought, that's what I want. Dreams are great, and it brought me to New York. I knew I'd always move to LA because I loved warm weather, and the entertainment business was there. So I always knew I'd eventually get to California. So I thought, let me see what New York is about. And I'm so glad I did it, because it taught me so much. I think I came into my womanhood. I had a lot of alone time. So all the craziness of the city, I felt the most at peace. And that was the first time I felt like work was getting better. And even dealing with my family situation, it was the first time I wasn't stressed or freaking out or upset or angry or crying about what was going on. I was able to just put it to the side and enjoy what was happening. So I was no longer in my head as much. I was just feeling what my heart wanted, and I was able to act upon that because I spent a lot of time alone, and that helped.
Well, and you also say, and I find this very interesting as you tell your story, you say you are a business. If you're going to be in the entertainment business, if you're going to be a model, if you're going to be a host, if you're going to, be an actress, you are a business. And you basically take, by saying that, all the emotion out of it, and I can see how you got to that so you could survive. So you could not only survive, but succeed. You put all the emotional stuff over here. And you say, I'm a business, and I'm going to make the business work.
Yeah. I feel like all the emotional stuff has come back around now as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
At this age. But I think people have a certain perception of the entertainment business, watching it on TV, looking at magazines. They think about the glitz, the glamour, and they're like, oh, I want to do that. Trust me, I was one of those people. But in time, you realize if you want to be in the business, you have to treat it like a business. Treat yourself as a business, not a hobby. It's not something you come into and like, oh, today I feel like, being on a magazine, or today I feel like you have to put the time and effort into it on a daily basis, just the way you would any other business. So I did put the time and effort. I went to all those auditions. I would have 6 auditions all day. Some you book, some you don't. And just keep moving forward and bettering yourself and get the training you need and all the different pieces that have to come together, and do it consistently.
Did you have, when you went to New York, were you completely alone? Did you go with a girlfriend?
I went alone. I was dating somebody on the East Coast, and but I knew once I was there, I was like, oh, he's not for me. So I was alone a lot. And
That's crazy.
it was the best medicine, I think. I really do. And I go back, I'm like, why did I leave New York so early? I should have stayed. But I had the itch to go to California, so I did. And that was hard, and that was starting all over again. That I felt like almost being back in Chicago. LA was a different animal, and it really brought me back to thinking more. Like it was starting the business all over. Just everything felt like it slowed down. So I was missing New York a lot. I was.
Did you have a mentor in New York? Like, did you have an agent or somebody you met along the way who became, who pointed you?
No, I mean, I had agents, but I never talked about my personal life. That was one thing I was very adamant about when I was coming to the business, like especially in New York. Nobody knew anything about my personal life, not my family life, not my, I guess you can create your persona. You're away from home. Nobody knows you. So you're meeting new people. And I chose to just strictly focus on my work and nothing else, and enjoy being with people. When I was around people, everybody would tell me their life stories, but I didn't. I kept that to myself and just enjoyed everything for what it was. And again, down the line, that changed. In LA, I think people always want to know you're like, so are you with somebody? Or, everybody's going out to events more. It's a different life in LA. And I find people wanting to get more on the personal side, to get to know you, even if it's just you have a business life with them, but they want to know your personal side. I didn't start talking more about my personal stuff, I think, till a lot later in life. And there were times I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't. But I think it's good to talk about things openly and freely. It's my truth. And
Well, I have to believe your story, will be a huge help to so many other people who have suffered abuse, who haven't talked about it, who haven't found a way out. You will give people hope. You'll give people, that sense of, I can survive. I can get out of this. I can be a success. Tell me about going to the audition for Deal or No Deal.
the audition was, it's funny because I got a call and they didn't tell us much about the audition other than, I think they may have said, they said it's a show. They didn't say it was a game show. So I went to the audition. It was one-on-one with the casting director. And there was only one girl in front of me having the audition. So I thought, this is weird. It's really quiet. Usually your first audition, there are many people, waiting in the waiting room. And the second, if you're lucky enough to get the call back, then there are less people. Well, it was the opposite with this. The first audition, it was just this other woman and me. And the second audition, there were hundreds of girls, hundreds of models there. So I was like, what is going on? What is this all about? And I was curious, and it was my last audition of the day. And I'm always about, let's stick it out and find out. And, instead of being in my head and guessing what this may be, because I did think it might be a model's reality show. And I didn't want that wasn't for me. So I thought, you know what, instead of, guessing, let me just stick it out. And I remember some of my girlfriends left the audition because it was taking too long on the callbacks. I'm glad I didn't leave.
How many girls were chosen from those hundreds?
From those hundreds, it was, for the first primetime show, there were 28 women. So 26 that go on stage, and they have 2 alternates. For the reboot of the show, they actually auditioned. It opened. It wasn't just LA. It was LA, New York, Chicago, Florida. and there were about 25,000 girls at audition.
25,000.
Yeah, that's what I had heard. I think I got that right.
Did you have to re-audition for each show?
Yes, I had to re-audition for the third show. The second one was only 2 models. There were only 2 of us, and that we were chosen from the original. But for the reboot, that was 9 years later, I had to re-audition. And I was like,
And you were the only one of the original cast, right? From Howie.
there were 2 other girls that were from the original, but I'm the only one who's been on all 3 versions with Howie. So I love my job. It was fun. It's great. And, I love our fan base that we have, that people, families could watch the show together, which was really cool to hear grandma with her grandkid. Like, to me, that makes me so happy. And my mom used to watch the show. She'd be at the doctor's office and they would play it all day. So it was really cool and really sweet. My mom got to come on set with my sister.
You were named one of the 100 most beautiful people in the world,
along with my mates. Yeah, it was really cool. It was a surprise.
Incredible.
The producers, they didn't tell us. They actually framed the People magazine, and I still have it up in my house. But they framed it and gave each one of us the magazine with our picture in it. It was really cool. It was really, really sweet.
It's more than sweet.
It's an honor. It's an honor. So that's a big deal, right? But very unexpected, very surprising. So it was very cool.
That's extraordinary success. And it was fairly long-running success. And then you tell the story of coming out of Deal or No Deal and kind of having to start all over again, auditioning, and how different it was.
It was, because I was so used to being on a set and being on this network show, and for 4 years, and the other show was a couple of years, so I wasn't auditioning as much, once in a blue moon, but I would book stuff. I would get jobs directly without auditioning sometimes because of the show. So all of a sudden, to go back in the mix of auditioning, I felt rusty, which was so interesting. I mean, I had some bad auditions where it was nerve-wracking. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I was just on this show for years and years. But it definitely is a different feeling being in an audition. And there were times that they were good, times that were bad, times that were like in between. So it was really interesting being in that role and having to find my way back. This business is definitely a roller coaster ride, the twists and turns, and it's a learning curve. So you just got to keep going. And there's a poem that actually got me through, and I put it in my book. It's called Don't Quit.
Yeah.
And I found that when I was living in New York.
I read that at the flea market after an audition.
Yeah. And I kept that, and to this day, I read it regularly, that I had to put in the book.
Give us the synopsis of that poem.
It's just, no matter what you're going through, you're going to have your twists and turns, ups and downs, and it's just a matter of, like, you might be so close when it seems so far, whatever it is that you want for yourself. But if you give up, you'll never know. So you have to keep going, and it'll show itself. And I talk about rejection. I have to go back to rejection, that sometimes when you feel like you're being rejected, sometimes it has nothing to do with you. And that may come down the line. You'll find out where I've been rejected for auditions, let's say. Well, down the road, those same people that auditioned me or I had meetings with ended up calling me like years later for something. They remembered me and kept me in their mind for something else. So it wasn't rejection. I just wasn't right for that. And I try to relay that to others, like, that are going through the process, especially the younger girls and guys that are coming through into the business that don't know. Sometimes it'll show itself down the line.
So I have to
every part of your life.
I mean, I know, I hate to ask this, but I have to ask it.
Cool.
Did the entertainment business in any way emulate some of what happened to you in your family life with men?
In the business,
I mean, did you have the casting couch experiences?
I had people that were like, hey, I'll buy you an apartment, and, you just be the other woman. I'm married, but I'll give you the apartment. And I know you live in New York. I'll give you the apartment in New York. I'm like, no. That definitely, I came across a lot of different moments. Luckily, I've never been in a situation where it went past that. And one of the things I tell everybody is your instincts kick in. And when they do, trust that gut instinct and run. Don't walk, run. You're hearing that little voice for a reason. But I felt like at this point I had dealt with so much that I was able to handle myself in situations in the entertainment business because I dealt with so much from a young age that I felt like I can handle it.
You had a sixth sense about all of that at that point, I have to think.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
able to handle it.
There were times I walked away and there were times I was in your face, like, who do you think you are? I never knew which way it would go. There were times that, I would sink in, like, why is everybody this way? Why is, you go into that mode. And then there are other times like, how dare you? So it would, again, I didn't know which way it was going to go. I never, like, depending on the situation, but then I would get protective of others. Like I encountered where this really big actor was in a young girl's face, actually just being just not so kind and in her face in many ways. And so I stepped in and got in the middle. I've done that many of times where I've stepped in and like, you have to go through me if you're going to try anything.
You are a protector.
So I feel like it prepared me for, don't wish it happened that way. But at the same time, it did help me go out into the world and know that bad things do happen and there are bad people. Not everybody's bad, but unfortunately there are some. So it helped me figure out how to, handle it, how to encounter it, and how to keep going.
Yeah, and there's another layer to that I have to ask. Not only do you recognize the bad that's coming at you or at someone around you, and you are a protective spirit. I mean, you're fighting for those around you. You didn't just fight for your mom or the kids.
Okay.
You really do fight for others. Do you recognize when a woman has been abused?
I do. For the most part, yeah. I've seen it with some friends. I've seen it with acquaintances. I think it shows itself no matter how much you try to hide it. I think you could tell there's something. Maybe not, you can't tell everything, but that you see it.
What do you do with that?
You have to make it I feel like you try, not have to, but you try to make it a safe space for that person. Like, know that I'm here if you need to talk. That I'm here if you need to just let loose. Like, I understand without telling them anything. There are times I have opened up if somebody's come to me and I've opened up a little bit about, but I don't want to make it about myself either. It's what they're going through. And when you're going through it, you really don't care about, you don't want to hear. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you need to hear what somebody else has gone through to help yourself. But when they're in it, being a good listener,
they need a safe place.
Yes, absolutely. Doesn't always work. I mean, my sister went through it and she repeated that cycle with others. And I've talked to her, I've tried helping her, I've tried getting her therapy, I've tried everything. But unless that person wants to help themselves and be better and recognize that there's something that they need help with, you can't force that on anybody. You can't. So they either do it in their own time or they just continue living and playing it out in that way, which is hard to watch, hard to see it.
Thank you, Patricia. I think this is a great place to stop. Thank you all for being with us again today to hear more of Patricia's journey. And remember that she is the author of Dream On, Now Deliver. You're going to want to get this book. And we'll see you next week as we explore more of her journey. Thank you.